Could you flip the pages?
No problem.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm very proud to be here to support not only the foundation but the work that I've also dedicated my life to. Everything else in my life has taken a backseat to the work that I'm doing with the foundation, because I've seen the potential that this has for all of humanity. I hope today that by sharing, I can help humanity move past some of the atrocities that have been created by my country. I hope other members of the world understand that there are many people in the United States that are ready and supporting change for everyone. I and my team are 100% committed to supporting the one planet, one nation, one race philosophy, and we look forward to freely sharing with others the technology that it might be expanded. I'm going to share some things today that hopefully will open some eyes and show everybody just exactly how close we are to making big change possible. For quite a while now, our team has been out of the public, as one of the reasons is that our understandings were not strong enough to where we could explain what it is that was happening and what it is that we were doing. We've grown a lot since that time. At the end of the presentation, we're going to show some videos showing some of the growth that we had. And it's our hope that by sharing in my own language, that it will inspire others to move with the understanding farther along and then share it with others. When Mr. Keshe asked me to give this presentation, I was initially kind of confused. I joked with him that we were getting ready to open up kebab shops, and he was asking me to give the most valuable recipes away freely. He laughed and said, "Don't worry about it. There's always going to be a market for good kebabs." I said it tongue in cheek, but the reality is that everything Mr. Keshe has shared has been freely with everybody for everybody's benefit. And what we're going to share today, I think will have a lot of value if you pay attention, and especially for those that have been following along and have the basic understanding. I think of the Spaceship program as kind of like the everything burger, as with it you get everything, and I mean everything. When one ship is opened up, it can open up the reactors, other reactors in its environment. So if one spaceship is created, potentially 5 spaceships could be created that were sitting in the back areas running, but not actually being able to be ignited, if you will. This is a big deal. A person entering into a spaceship with cancer leaves without it, as the cells of the body are completely changed. It's my opinion that one spaceship properly used can radically change a community. It is now within the grasp of all of us, and I hope today I share enough that many others have the success of creating the spaceship. Never before has such a great gift been shared that a housewife or a major political leader can create something so great. I challenge each knowledge seeker who wishes to make a big difference to work to bring the ships to all areas of the world. I challenge you not to copy, but to expand and improve upon the designs. I also share my understanding of how to create what I call an oasis system. And I hope that that information will also inspire other people to move further along in their understandings. I teach to the level of my understandings, and I'm always open to clarifications and corrections. So just because you heard it from me, you've heard it to the level of my understanding. I've followed the work for a long time now, so I think I know a little bit, but I could be wrong in certain things, and I'm open to stand to correction. Okay, with that said, I hope you have your popcorn, as there's a bunch of videos at the end, and we're going to go through all of them, and I'm just going to kind of keep moving right along. So go ahead and go to the next slide, Vince. This is our Keshe manufacturing team. Our team's been together for about 2 years. All of us are dedicated to bringing about change. Within our facility, we stress harmony and a happy environment with everything that we do. For those that don't know me, I'm the guy in the center holding up the selfie stick. And that's the rest of our team. Okay, next slide. We're entering into a new age with new possibilities. It is up to us to bring it forward. No longer does humanity have to rely on others to limit our possibilities. The new reality is that we're entering into a time where our limitations are self-imposed. We're creator beings. We're being challenged to recognize that we are the ones that can make these changes. Soon, someone will show a spaceship that was created with their own intentions and thoughts. Perhaps it will be the Mojans, perhaps it'll be somebody else, but that day will come and it will add a new level of what creation and our creation abilities are here on Earth. Killing or silencing scientists no longer can stop the future from being created. It's going to be created whether they like it or not, because humanity wants it. Go to the next slide, please. For the past 2 years, Keshe Manufacturing Arizona has established roots in Arizona and the United States. We developed and established a store offering various products for sale. You can find us at usa.keshefoundation.org. And I suspect that after today, I'm going to be worried about running short of dynamic reactor kits. Because what you're going to see is how valuable these things that we put on the market, but nobody knew how to use them or didn't understand the fullness of how to use them. We're going to show you today how they can be of great value in what it is that we're trying to accomplish. We tested various new ideas and products. We worked on implementing systems of production that allowed the new factories to understand the true needs. We nurtured communications amongst our communities by providing updates and information as well as workshops. Here in the United States, our foundation is strong. This has brought us to where we are today, to assist all of humanity to benefit from the gifts that are being shared by becoming a research and development center for space travel and beyond. Next slide. Our testing has taught us a lot, including failures and new understandings. Things we learned about working with plasma and energy fields are shown below. So I'm going to go into some things now that not a lot of people know. Some of these things were shared specifically with me, but I think by going through them, you'll have a better grasp of the bigger picture of all that we're doing with the energy fields. The gravitational fields or the giving fields contain the magnetic fields, which are always stronger, with the magnetic fields being the receiving fields. If you think of the Earth's gravitational fields holding or giving to the inner magnetic core, which is receiving the fields. So you always have your gravitational, well, I shouldn't say always. You have your gravitational fields holding your magnetic fields so that they can be contained. In some cases where you have a single ball and you're just radiating out, let's say, magnetic fields, that's what you're doing, is you're radiating out magnetic fields. If you're trying to capture fields, you need to have the gravitational fields and the magnetic fields working in harmony. GANs can be gravitational or magnetical. It makes a difference when choosing what you wish to use for your dynamic reactors. All the oxides, CO2, zinc oxide, copper oxide, as well as many of the other GANs produced, are gravitational in nature. Hydrogen for space travel is considered gravitational. Next slide. Deuterium for space travel would be considered as neutral. Tritium, or H3, would be considered as magnetical, as would CH3. So when you're creating magnetical fields, a lot of times what you're working with is tritium and CH3. For gravitational fields, you're working with a lot of your other GANs. So when you're loading your reactors, you have to kind of think about what you're trying to create. Are you trying to create a contained field? Are you trying to radiate out magnetic fields? Are you trying to bring in gravitational fields? That's kind of what you're looking at before you get started in loading up your reactors. When you're making your GANs, too much washing of the GANs makes it weaker. One wash of the GANs from sea salt or 3 washes from caustic works well for spaceship and energy work. Now, this doesn't hold true for some of the health areas, but for the energy work in the spaceship, what we're really looking for is GANs material as strong as it can be. In the spaceship, as well as the other dynamic experiments, it works best to use dry GANs and then add a little water so it becomes soupy. So what we do is we dry down the GANs material in a little a heat lamp environment. We crush it so it becomes a fine powder. And then when we use it for a spaceship, we add a little bit of water, enough so that it doesn't become a powder, but it's enough to be able to move around the reactor. You don't want to completely rehydrate it again, or you defeat the purpose. there must be a connection between the energy fields created to lock them together. So if you have, let's say you have a starship formation, all of the fields need to be locked together. So if you're using your oxides, for example, they're all locked together by oxygen. However, if you had, let's say you have hydrogen in your top ball, you need to connect that hydrogen to each of the various oxides by putting just a very small amount of that material in the other reactors. So if you're doing let's say you're doing a 4-ball configuration of 4 different materials into one reactor, again, you need to have the connection between the first ball, the second ball, the third ball, and the fourth ball. Again, it's just a very little amount, just enough to make that connection. Next slide, please. All the oxides connect together, but where other elements are used, a small pinch of the other materials must be added to connect the fields. In creating a spaceship, only 3 materials are initially required: hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium. You can use other high gravitational or high pH materials such as lead or titanium. Could be substituted in the top ball, but you can create your spaceship using only hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium. And as we get going, I'll explain more how that works. Mass ratio is the key to dictating the strength of your fuel. Mass ratio is the amount of one material to the other. The higher the ratio, the stronger the strength by order of magnitude. So, for example, if we put, let's say, in the case of our spaceship, what we're trying to do with the H, the D, and the T is we're trying to compress the fields of the tritium to open up. So we typically would put a very small amount of tritium and a very large amount of hydrogen, for example. Something to the order of 24 to 1 might be a good place to start. Now, if you think about the mass ratio, it can be carried even into the medical teachings as well, where rather than working with mass ratio of 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, maybe a larger mass ratio will allow the energy fields to balance out even quicker. Just a thought for those that are interested. One of the things that we do is we put an empty ball in the center, and that allows the space for the free plasma to be created in the reactor. My thinking is it doesn't always have to be the center. I think it could be in the ball too, but that's just my thinking. Okay, tritium gains its I'll call it long life. I don't know if that's the right word, or radioactive characteristics with the addition of deuterium. So in order to have your tritium continue to be functional and the energy source for your spaceship, you need to add deuterium. But you don't need a lot. You only need a very small amount. So don't go overboard with deuterium. Now, what I was calling radioactive is not really our old understanding of radioactive. It simply behaves in a way where it acts as if it's radioactive, in that it has that long life element to it. There's no special handling that's required, and nobody's going to shut us down because we're handling any type of dangerous equipment, because it's not dangerous. Next slide, please. When figuring the mass ratio, you go by the weight. For example, if you add 1 gram of a gravitational component and 5 grams of a magnetic substance, your fields will probably be magnetic, whether or not you placed it inside or outside of your the balls that you use for the reactor. So just because you have a gravitational field outside of a magnetic field, the magnetic field can overwhelm the gravitational field. And maybe that's what you're trying to do. But that's where you kind of think about, before you load in your balls, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. If you place a very strong gravitational mass ratio to a very weak magnetical, the magnetical field gets compressed and can open up. And this is where I was talking about the stronger hydrogen and a smaller amount of magnetical tritium. And perhaps a good place to start might be 24:1 as your ratio, or 48:2. When the hydrogen is opened up, a light will appear. Hydrogen is not the only GANs that can be opened up. Other GANs can also be opened up. Higher order materials, see the atomic numbers, can carry the fields of the weaker order. That's why sometimes we like to use some of these higher element materials in our reactors, like, for example, titanium GANs. Next slide, please. It is possible to change the strength or the pH of GANs by using other GANs in their environment. And this was shown earlier in the work being done by our other research and development group. You can also do it by using the dynamic reactors. You can also do it by putting magnets on it too. And you can also do it by working with the mass ratio. So if you start out with something that's not very, doesn't have a very strong pH, you can alter it by putting it in a dynamic reactor, where by working with the mass ratio, you're actually moving the strength of the GANs using the order of magnitude with it. The field strength of GANs can be extended very far and is usually stronger and much more concentrated when dried. So we've measured using our method of dowsing that some of the fields can move out to almost 30 feet in strength. And we've also measured that the dried material, when we use dowsing, appears to be much stronger. When making GANs, it matters how and where you store it, as it is influenced by other GANs materials. So a lot of people just make the GANs and throw it up on the shelf with other stuff and not paying attention to where it's sitting. It makes a difference where you put your GANs because it does get influenced by other materials. You can weaken it. You can, if you put, for example, CO2 next to copper oxide, your CO2 is going to carry the fields of that copper oxide into all your experiments. Now, we haven't quite figured out how to completely isolate it, but for sure, one of the things that we do is keep all of our GANs in similar areas, same GANs in same areas. And there's certain GANs that we keep away from everything else. Typically your stronger ones like your lead GANs, etc. You can alter the composition of the GANs by creating a different environment. We do this when we produce the hydrogen. And I think we're going to end up learning that what we do with the hydrogen and pulling out the carbon and pulling it away from it is just the tip of the iceberg. But it's an area that needs all of us to look at and understand, so that new and better materials can be created for new and better uses. There are different ways to build a spaceship and an oasis system or an energy bubble. And I'm going to share some of those in a minute. When the spaceship concepts are understood, the concepts and how we build a spaceship can be applied to other things, like how do we make a battery or how do we make a replicator. What we're finding now is that the things that we're learning for making a spaceship are relatable to our understanding of how we make other things. Even the magravs that we made way back when, we now believe that with some of our new understandings, we can create a better and stronger magrav. Because we now understand, how the gravitational and magnetic fields work. We understand the importance of I guess we'll use Marco's word of gradient, the difference between the top one and the bottom one. And we've learned a lot in this process, especially with the spaceship technology, that will take us backwards to improve some of the stuff that we had early on in our understandings. Next chart, please. So one of the things that we learned too was that the plasma fields, they're not contained by walls. They're not contained by windows. They're not contained by a nano-coated plate sitting in front of it. They're basically, they're so strong that they go through everything. the easiest way to contain the fields is by field strength interaction. In other words, we use stronger gravitational or stronger magnetic fields to control the direction of the fields and how they interact with the spaceship. When building a spaceship, it's all about creating field interaction and then containing those fields. So that's what we're really trying to do with the rotating reactors. It's not enough to just create the fields, you have to contain them. And we've learned some of the ways to contain them, and that's by the different types of materials that we're using and how strong the different fields that we're using. Many times the fields could be created, but they simply were sent back into the environment. On one of our first experiments, we did, and I think a lot of you have seen it, where we created 18 magravs and we put them into a big spaceship field. Those fields extended 200 feet out in all directions, and they went through 8-inch concrete walls. But they lacked gravitational containment, and they had a lot of what we now understand is the leakage. We were plugged into a wall, and there were some other things that were not serving us well. What we're attempting to do is to create a toroid field that feeds the energy back around up the top and back around till it hits the top core to ignite or open up the fields. So in doing that, what we're really trying to do is make that bend, that first bend, very quickly. If we're measuring our fields to the best that we can with our measuring tools, and we're seeing that the plasma fields are going too high before they turn around and create a donut, we have to strengthen the fields such that we don't lose them. So what we're looking at doing in all of our exercises is we're looking to eliminate the losses, such as the connection to an electrical grid. That's a big one. Blockages in the path to the wind. So what happens is the plasma field comes right back down through the center of our spaceship. And if there's blockages, that's going to be a problem. If we have too weak or too strong of fields on any of our 3 layers, all of our reactors have 3 layers. If there's outside influences like humans, us, or if we have other reactors in the immediate environment, all that robs from the fields. So it needs to be kind of in a, not necessarily a secluded environment, but it can't be a trafficked environment. It needs to allow the fields to build up and to be able to gain enough strength to open up the hydrogen fields. Next chart, please. So ideally, what we want to have to power our spacecraft is plasma power. If we're able to open up one spacecraft, then we'll have plasma power for as many other spacecraft or as many other projects that we want. We use DC power, which is more appropriate than AC power. So we plug into a 12-volt battery and run our 12-volt motors. But the best source is really the plasma power. So if we can get these plasma batteries strong enough that they can carry the 12-volt requirements, that's going to be a big breakthrough also. All the wires and batteries and controllers must be in the environment of the spaceship. In other words, when I say environment of the spaceship, they have to be within the boundaries of the 3 reactors or any other rotating balls around the circumference. So you can't have wires hanging down the side. You can't have batteries outside the environment. Everything has to be inside the environment. And you'll see on my videos how we do it. Too much human traffic robs the fields. So one of the things that we try to do, because we don't have the best measuring equipment, and in fact we don't really have any measuring equipment, is we have to do it with our feelings. We use our hands to help us feel the energy fields. Some of us are better than others, but we do the best that we can. Sometimes it's also, our heart kind of tells us the answers, and we follow what we believe to be the right way, and hopefully that leads us to where we're trying to go. One way to help contain the fields from leakages is the use of deuterium. So what we learned is that you can sometimes, for example, paint the top plates with deuterium. That helps to keep the fields contained. We've also tried down the bottom where the motors are a source of leakage. What we do is we wrap them in 3 layers of a painted aluminum foil, and we use the hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium in 3 layers, like the 3 layers of the body. So we keep the electrical motors, especially the magnetic motors, from influencing the fields. You've all seen those electrical beepers. The beepers only work when using AC current. If you're holding the beepers in your hand, then the human element influences the results. So what we do is we have our beepers connected to a stick, and we put a grounding piece of tape around the end of the stick, and we feel it gives us the best form of measurement of fields when we're plugging it into the wall. Sometimes what we'll do is before we get to using the batteries, is we'll test the fields out with the AC current to get an understanding of what the fields are doing according to the beeper, and then we'll move to the batteries. But once we move to the batteries, we no longer are able to hear the beeping noise that tells us what's going on. Okay, next chart. Okay, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this one. This was our first try at it. This is 18 maggrav units. They're all connected together. We put high voltage transformers for neon light signs underneath them. And we had 3 reactors. You can see them set up on a little pedestal there with one spinning in the center. That's the configuration that measured over 200 feet. We had it running for about 3 months. Anytime anybody came into our facility for whatever reason, one of the first things they noticed was that something different was going on in this place and they couldn't put their finger on it. Well, it was the energy fields that were being showered not only to our neighbors, but to everybody who came into our environment. And it was palpable. And I mentioned that even our employees, there was I'll call it a mellowing out of the employees. Maybe it was subtle, but still, it just felt like, well, the energy was there, and is my belief that everything that entered that environment to some degree changed. Next slide. Okay, this was, we actually improved upon this, but this was in a spaceship configuration that helped us understand a lot. This little configuration kind of lit the light bulbs for us in terms of what it is that we were doing to try to control the fields that we were creating. This particular one had, we changed it to where we put on the bottom plate, we put a zinc plate. We left the copper plate in the middle, and we put an aluminum plate on the top. We ended up getting rid of that that spacer between the motor and the top plate, and we had the top plate be more of a barrier. And we painted the top plate with the deuterium, like I told you. In these 3 stationary reactors that are in ceramic balls, if you will, they're on a bearing so that they spin. Each of those have an equal amount of hydrogen, tritium, and deuterium. In doing this exercise, we also learned that in making the beads, we could also influence the field strength of each of these layers. So when we made the beads for the second version of this one, we paid attention to by putting CH3 in the intergravitational beads, and we put a mixture of gravitational materials in every 4th bead. So Mr. Keshe alluded to it earlier, but what we were doing is we were creating the space where these these beads could carry more fields. So if you remember in some of his drawing, he drew a little triangle between the inner bead and the outer bead. We were creating those little triangles between the beads, except in our case, we now understood that depending on what we use for the gravitational material, we could put more and more strength and capabilities into our unit by how we made the beads. Now, we made the beads a little bit different. The next slide, this one it's hand drawn, but it's important, if nothing else, to kind of understand how what we're doing with this version also plays into what we're doing with the bigger version of the spaceship. So don't count how many beads, because I don't think he drew enough of them in the chart. But there's basically 6 beads in the middle and 12 beads on the outside. And what we did was we created them in a way where they were very, very compressed. So that center hole between the beads was where the wind of our plasma fields was traveling through. So the first, okay, so on the gravitational beads, what we did is we put magnesium, CO2, CuO, and zinc oxide. And we did 4, 4, and 4. So we carried a bigger shopping cart of fields with the beads that we made up. On our bottom plate, on this one says zinc, but we actually ended up with a titanium plate on the bottom for this one, a copper plate, and an aluminum plate. And that's how we put the beads together. The beads, believe it or not, they carry a lot of power. The fields that these generate, we could get them up to 12 feet out with just beads. And we didn't use the 14 gauge wire. We used a very thin wire, maybe like a 20 gauge wire. It was very thin, and yet it still carried the voltage of the 12 volts we put through it with no problem. Now, we attempted to try to have our plasmatic battery hooked into this, but we never had one that was strong enough to get us started. But that's really the way you want to go with this. Next chart, please. Okay, this is our call it the spaceship configuration that you all saw in Rome. This picture does not have, is doing just exactly what I told you not to do, and that is putting these wires outside the environment. Everything has to be inside the environment. This was an earlier picture that I had. I think in my video you'll see them all tied together. So what we've done on this is, if we go from the top down, the top one has an aluminum plate underneath the plastic plate, and we painted that aluminum plate, and we actually bent it like a cupping arrangement so that it could catch the fields without having them circumvent the plate. In the balls, we have, okay, in the latest configuration of the top ball, we have, it's got a hollow, an empty ball in the center. followed by 1 gram of tritium, followed by, I said gram, I think it's actually milligram, 0.1. I think I have my grams mixed up. 1 unit of tritium to 128 units of hydrogen. And that's what's in our ball. In the balls down lower, all 3 of them are exactly the same. You can see the 3 layers of the foil we put around the motors. And the bottom balls are a 3-ball configuration with small amount of. We use the ratio of 1 to 24, and we also put in. Somebody here? Hello. We also put in deuterium in with our hydrogen, but we also put it in with the tritium, but just a very little bit. Okay, go to the next slide. I think where we're going to show it. Okay, there's what the setup looks like. Zinc plate, copper plate, and titanium plate. What we did on the inner balls, we put them alternating hydrogen and tritium. On the outer balls, first time around, we started with hydrogen, deuterium, and tritium. We since switched it out to simply hydrogen and tritium. We took the deuterium out. And those balls, we need to have them get, they need an initial kickstart to kickstart the rest of the motion of the fields, and eventually they'll move on their own. Okay, next chart. Okay, so get your popcorn. Vince, are you set up there where you can share the videos kind of one right after the other? Or?
Yep, I can share them whenever you want me to go to the next one, no problem.
Okay, just let's start. So what you're going to see is we've done a whole bunch of experiments. A lot of them are, I'll call it, not successful, but we learn along the way. So just because you see it here doesn't mean it's the solution. It's the progress that we've learned along the way to get us to where we are now. So this was my very first reactor I built at home. Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm ready to plug in my.
Do you want the sound or just?
Yeah, just go ahead and keep it sound. I'll talk over it if I need to. There. Coming over to electrical plug, which is basically sitting here ready for things to be plugged into it. And on the other side, coming off to neutrals, here's what my plasma rings look like with a ball in the center. The ball is nothing more than a Christmas ornament filled with GANs. I used a lot of the brass GANs, gold and silver, and I'm now getting ready to plug it in and let it condition itself. And I've marked the polarities on the plug, so the plug is all ready to go. So here we go. Oh, didn't like that.
blue circuit.
That's what I go through. We had a lot of those types of things. Okay, go to the next one. Here in Arizona, we're going to run another test. This particular configuration, we put the 4 units in the center in a Faraday cage environment. All 4 of those are connected together with nano-coated wires. All of them have transformers underneath them. And we have a center mag-grav unit that's connected to the electric supply. The electric supply is also connected to this high voltage plasma generator. This time, however, we put our pain pen configuration nano-coated into the front end of it, and we're going to test the fields with it. So starting out, David, go ahead and test the fields that we're getting.
Okay,
this is from a single.
We are testing the fields with no connection to the high frequency generator of the boiler rate that we have here. And just right there, the fields from the no more battery? No.
Put it closer and see if you get anything.
Detect the field.
I think you got to push that in a little bit. Push it in a little bit. Push it in towards the mag-grav a little bit. Just a little bit. That's good. That's good. That's good. Okay, and straighten out that one over there on the other side. So straight. Just get it straight. Don't step on the nano-coated wires. Straighten it out. There you go, just like that. Okay, so now go ahead, Paul, if you turn on the high voltage. Okay. And go here. Grounded into okay. Now test the fields, David. Okay, so go down here, Paul. Go into those wires.
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Okay, go into the transformer, yeah. So we're going into the neutral of the transformer. Go into the neutral line.
Watch the field.
Now the fields have moved outside of the 6 mag-grav units that are hooked into nothing. Go over the top. Go outside the mag-grav unit. Is it coming through the mag-grav unit? Mag-grav unit itself? No. Push the mag-grav unit in a little bit. About an inch. Now we push the mag-grav in just a little bit, and we notice that the fields now are going outside the mag-grav. Outside the mag-grav. Actually going like the mag graph. Come up right over the top of the mag graph and feel. And then going up above the mag graph too. Wow, it's going quite a bit above. It's going way above. It's going 4.5, almost 5 feet above. How about into the center, David? See what happens in the center. Yeah, I think you're probably, so you're about 6 foot above. I think your field is influencing the field. So, oh wow, when you step out, you're getting a lot. You're about 5.5, 6 feet above the unit. Okay. All right. Yeah, so yes,
Is there a problem?
No, just for the Facebook restart.
We passed the time limit.
Yeah, second restart today. So we're all good now. We can keep going.
Okay, go ahead and pull up the next video. Most of the other videos aren't quite so long. There's a little.
All right, we're doing the testing with a high frequency machine, similar to the neon activator that we're going to be putting in the microbes. What we did, this little ball that we put in the microbe was filled with CO2. And we put a nano-coated wire around the ball, and the center pin goes inside of the ball. When we touch this ball, and with just a little low frequency from the generator, the field that produces is around 12 feet around myself when I touch it. And right now, I'm gonna activate the little ball. And now, you see the field over there going so far? You can see the field going so far. Keep going farther. Keep it going farther. Farther. Check higher. How much is the dome? Up. Too high. It's too high. It's out of the range of
Don't jump.
Of the stuff. Just hold it in my body.
That's good. Walk around. Walk around.
Walk around.
Walk around.
Go that way. Okay, and go that way. Go back me, behind me. And we
So
got
what you're seeing is that our fields are influenced by the plasma, and we influence the plasma also.
if I project it like that, it's going to be probably higher if I put my hand. Check straight to my hand. Keep going.
Keep going.
See?
Towards the door. Towards the door. Keep going towards the door.
Keep going to the door.
To the door.
Keep going. Right there. Come. That's what the key is. It's
Keep
about
going farther back.
Before. Come in. Right there. A little bit more back. Okay, put a marker. Put a piece of tape. Yeah, put it there and put a piece of tape to measure.
You see the verbal abuse poor Paul has to go through. Okay, next one. Just kind of keep them going, one right after the other. Okay, we're here in Arizona again. So we closed our door. Our door was right here. And what we did when we closed it, we put this capillary tube, which we nano-coated on the outside only. And the other wires, the typical wires would be our nano-coated wires across the maggraphs. When we closed the door, what we found is that, David, what do you find with the fields? These lines here are 12 feet out. So we're about 12 feet out with the fields. And we just turned it back on again. One of the things we added to it was this spinning ball in the center around our other GANs.
the spin isn't quite so fast, but it's a very smooth spin, probably about 2,000, or no, I'm gonna say 1,200 RPM. Now show him the, get the light bulb if you would, David. Where's the light bulb? Go ahead and put the light bulb on it, Paul. So the light bulb, you can see lights up pretty easy. So we're back to where we got significant fields about 12 feet out. What's the shape of the fields right now, David? Can you figure out what the shape looks like?
See here, we'll start from the bottom.
Uh-huh.
We take to the field. Right here is where we get the first point.
Yeah, you can't go underneath the
Yeah.
the thing, but so it comes out about 12 feet, and now what's it doing?
It's going like in a bubble, like a.
Okay, and follow it up, follow it up, follow it up and in. Oh, it goes pretty high. Okay, so there's where it's starting to go in, probably about 10 feet high. Go into the center now and see what's happening in the center, David. Go into the center of the field. Be careful with that ladder, open it, close it all the way up. David, watch out with this ladder. Let's open it all the way up. I don't want you to fall. Now you know when you go into the fields, you're actually interfering with the fields, but let's see what happens in terms of the height of the. So this is a 6-foot ladder. He's on 6. Oh, what happened? It just collapsed. Oh, there it goes. Is that thing working, David?
Yeah.
What's happening? The field just collapsed?
Oh.
There it goes. There you go. David, is that thing working right?
Yeah.
Seems like the field's collapsing.
No, the fields, you can get here the toroid is coming this way when you get in the center.
The field had dead spots in it.
The field's still going just below here.
Okay, maybe it's because we got so much action within the field and we just started it up. Okay, so come on out of the field. David's dousing the fields. Show him your little dousing rod here. Okay, and you're dousing to find out the size of the fields. This is a 12-foot mark right here with the lines here coming into the field. David's starting out about 20 feet back. And right here, David finds the fields with the dowsing rod at about, right there it goes, 18 feet. 18 feet out.
Or more.
Or maybe more like about 20 feet. So David's way back here. And you can see the 12-foot marks.
So what we learned was that little beeper only gave us partial.
Other thing we're doing here in talking up the field is we put a radio at the 12-foot mark to see if we get interference with the radio. We just started it up today, keeping it on low, and we're going to check it tomorrow. Hey David, what are you doing here? We're in Arizona.
We're testing again the devices, the high voltage capacitors, transformers that we got here. We got one for the magnetical and another for the gravitational. And the wires of the magravs connections are looping through the middle of the two wires. You see here, every wire is looping through the to the wires, and we have a spark gap in the center here. That's where we are doing the load of the spark, and we are just testing the
So
fields.
it's going from one of the red wires
One side
to the other red wire.
It goes to the other red wire. Each one, the right connects to the
Okay, so go ahead and go.
okay, let's test. We're gonna
Go ahead and turn it on.
And then Julian is gonna start testing the fields. See the fields?
Okay,
going
go
right
ahead.
there? get the spark and the field goes over there. You can
Okay, so
see-
Julian is about, that line there's 12 feet where those tape is. Julian, is it going? It's still going right now? You still are live? Oh wow, you're about 20 feet away now.
Yeah, right there. I don't know
About
how
20
many
feet.
it's about 20 feet from
Are
that
we
point.
20 feet all the way around?
Possible, you go back.
Okay, we're going again. And are you live there, Julian? Is it going?
Yeah.
Is it live? Okay, so you're still live all the way to the wall. Did it bite you? Came back? What happened?
Nothing.
He
just
touched you
crazy.
the metal.
Oh, well, don't touch a metal. Okay, we're here in Arizona. What we're doing now is we're changing the ratio of how far apart the balls are, and we're shaking up the reactors so that the material, for the most part, is pulled off the side walls. So we're kind of starting anew. So these are all going to be at 10 inches, 10 inches, 10 inches, and 10 inches away over here. And we're going to do each of these various reactors with a different configuration and find out which one we like the best. Okay, we're here in Arizona and we have the setup on a single reactor with the hydrogen GANs with a stir mechanism going into the center of the core, and we have them one spinning one way and the other spinning the other way. We're stirring anti-clockwise and we're spinning the reactor very slow in a clockwise manner. And we're going to measure the pH and see if we're able to change the pH and the gravitational and magnetic fields of the hydrogen GANs. Okay, we're here in Arizona again, and we have the silica setup. We've been programming, if you will, with our thoughts, the energy fields that we're getting in the center. We've hooked in a set of ARhAyas beads, and we got the ARhAyas beads connected to a mini high voltage transformer, which is run back through the electricity line, but we're only running 3 volts through the electricity. So what we've done is we've amplified the fields. And David, show them how you're able to take those fields and carry them away from that center field with your hands. So what David's doing, bring them in closer, David. Get into them. So what David's doing is he's taking those fields until he feels them in the palm of his hand. Move your hands down a little bit, David. Go into the center. Go into the center of the field plasma. And pull that field, holding your hands together. Pull it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up. Tell me what you're feeling in the center of your hands now. Are you feeling that field still carried in the center of your hands?
Yeah, fingers are tingling.
Okay, pull it up higher. Pull it away from the reactor. You still feel those energy fields?
Yeah.
Still feel them?
Yeah.
You're moving away and you still feel them? Now you're carrying that energy with you, that field of energy, and try holding it to your head and see if you feel that energy move into your head. Tell me what you're feeling. Do you feel it in your head?
Yeah.
What are you feeling?
Yeah, it feels almost like my head opens up, you know, in space.
Okay, good. Okay, we're here in Arizona, and I want to show how we make the beads for the I call it the bead configuration of our starship. So I got Julian here. Julian's going to show how we make beads. So Julian, I'm going to take a close up of what it is you're doing. That's a finished bead. Show them how you're going to wrap up the bead.
First take this coil, which is 910, and we use thin wire for beads, so it's
Okay.
easier for it to fit.
You can use thick or thin.
Yeah, and we actually do a little trick here, like a little hook. And
So show me the hook. Okay, put a little hook on the wire. Okay.
and then put the paper
And that paper is covered in what?
in CS3, which is a magnetical.
Okay, so you're making a magnetical bead.
I slide into the hook, and then tie it so it's not loose.
Okay.
So it holds everything in place. And then I put the paste.
And this is your magnetical CH3 paste. And you pasted the paper beforehand too. So that just kind of makes the paper a little bit moist.
And then we start rolling.
How many turns do you do?
You mean the paper?
Yeah,
I don't know.
about 3 turns.
No,
Three,
not
4
three
turns?
No, many turns. We measure everything already, so
So the papers are all measured out in
Yeah.
advance. You're
Yeah.
going to wrap up all that paper?
yeah.
Oh, you're going to have a very strong one.
hmm So this way, because of the hook,
Yes.
so this paper doesn't go loose.
Okay.
The next one we copper
Then you
plate,
put
copper sheet.
a little piece of copper, almost foil,
Yeah,
so you can bend it by hand.
yeah. And then I will do this to tighten it and get it as round as possible.
Okay. Then what do you do?
And then next one we put the zinc sheet. Zinc sheet.
You know, again, it's zinc foil.
But it's harder.
I mean, our foil is a little bit heavier duty, so it's a little harder to. Okay, and then that one goes in.
Into what we call the first coil of the inner ring of the whole thing.
Okay, so it slides right in there.
Yeah. Perfect.
And then you're ready to start the next bead
And this
right
is
there at the end.
yeah. This is magnetical, which is in the inner ring.
Inner ring is
Yeah.
magnetical.
This is the first coil, and we use the tail of the second coil as the pin, as the center pin. That's the Davis cheek, which makes the whole thing easier.
Yep.
And then
So what would you do if you were doing a gravitational bead?
almost same thing. Almost
Same thing.
Yeah.
You don't need to wrap it, but what kind of materials would you use for gravitational ring? And those would go on the outer ring.
Yeah. You want me to wrap that right?
What are you using? Are you using
Copper oxide for this
copper oxide
demonstration.
or
Yeah.
or any of the other oxides?
Like maybe
or any of
CO2, magnesium,
Yeah.
or zinc. And the same thing, that little hook.
Okay.
Little hook. And where's my
So that's
paper?
how we make beads, and
Yeah.
then show them over here on the ones that's already made, how we put them together. I'll show you down here. We have your magnetical in the middle and your gravitational on the outside. Okay, that's bead making. Here in Arizona, and we're
It was a little bit rough for those on those beads with the nano coating, but you get the idea.
Sections we're producing our deuterium. This one, to produce deuterium, we always connect a battery or a voltage, a power supply to do the connection of all the threads. After it becomes completely black and we collect the material, we have the material here. Then we're going to take the material to the removing of the carbon in our setup here. Here's our table.
so
Here's the material that we collected, and we're going to put it in the different trays
So
to
what we're
remove the
doing-
carbon.
what we're doing is CO2 kit. We have, these are deuterium, we have in here, removing the carbon from each one. And then when we're completed, we put it over here with a finished product for deuterium. Exact same setup for the tritium. What we do is we take our CH3, we remove the carbon using these various water tanks with CO2. All of them have lids on them, so we put them in a contained environment. And then this
This
is
is the CH3.
CH3. And then over here you can see we have our H3 with the carbon removed. This is before it goes into the containers over there, and this is our hydrogen completed. So the colors between these two are similar. This one tends to be black. If you're working with deuterium, you can put your magnet on, and it's almost like iron filings if you dry it down. It will react to a magnet. Okay, we're here in Arizona, and we're going to show you how we make the hydrogen GaNs. So we start off with CH3. We remove the carbon from the CH3. So this material here has CH3 with carbon removed. And then David, what else did we do to get it prepared? We have two methods. One we call the caustic method, and one we have battery method. So David, go ahead and explain how we get
First
this ready.
method, we're going to use the caustic, the plastic pieces.
From Coca-Cola bottles.
We put it in a Coca-Cola bottle. We put a teaspoon or a tablespoon of the plastic inside.
Plastic pieces, yeah.
Plastic pieces. Then we come with the caustic, the
NaOH.
NaOH, and we put, depending on the bottle, 1 teaspoon or 2 spoonfuls of caustic, and then we put hot water
Yeah.
inside the bottle.
So I nano coat the inside of the bottle and the material, and we pull the carbon apart from the CH3. Okay.
Then we add the liquid CH3 inside
Yeah.
the bottle, and that's
So
what
it
we
has
have.
so it has caustic, plastic bottle, and then we're going to float it in our CO2 container. Make sure the top is on good, and it just sits in there. Nothing more. Then when we're done with it, we wash it 3 times, and we have our hydrogen GaNs. Okay, so the other way we make hydrogen GaNs, David, tell them what we're doing. We put that in this fish tank. We call this the
Okay.
caustic method for hydrogen. And then the other method we're using,
It's right here.
the same CH3 that has the carbon removed from it. You don't have to take it out.
Okay, we got the 3 bottles connected with electrodes and LED.
Don't take it out. Don't take it out, David. Just leave it in there.
Here we have the electrodes connected. Only one electrode is touching the CH3 in the bottom. The other ones are floating in the air above.
Yeah.
And we connect a battery to power the flow of the plasma in the bottles.
It doesn't take much. A lot of times we'll use a 3-volt battery. Right now, David's using one of his homemade
I'm
plasma
using a
batteries.
plasma battery.
He's trying it out. We also have a voltmeter here, so we're always getting power. And you can see we put the LEDs between.
The center pins.
And then we let this sit for 2 to 4 weeks. And then we harvest. In this case, we don't need to wash it anymore. It's already washed. In this case, we got to wash it 3 times. That's how you make hydrogen. So we're back here in Arizona. We put on a top plate because the metal plates were creating too much vibration, and it seems to have solved the problem. We're getting a much better spin of the ball, and we can really feel the winds along the outside edges. It carries almost a heat to it. The fields above are about 1 inch, and below are about 2 inches, and on the sides about 2 inches each, according to our little beeper, if you will. That's it from Arizona. Okay, we're here in Arizona. Here's our new configuration. We pulled everything inside the fields. We still had to go with electrical on this cord for the motor spinning, but other than that, everything should be good. We're here in Arizona. We have our system running again. We put a new, very high level of tritium in the center, and just a very little bit of hydrogen in the center with an empty ball in the middle. Right now we're having a little bit of a battery problem, so we have our motor connected to the spinner and plugged into there, and we also have one of our batteries running off of AC because our batteries ran out of charge, and that's what we're testing right now. Here in Arizona, we got this new configuration going. We put a little bit of lead in the top ball. We have the other spinning. We just started it back up.
Can you stop that for a second, Vince? Thank you. So this particular version is not a spaceship version, but if you think about what it is that we're creating a field of plasma that's self-contained, that if it opens up can do the same thing that our spaceship can do, except it's not going to take off. It's going to be, I'll call it earthbound. I look at this as like an ARhAyas system, in that it will create a bubble of energy that you can walk into and walk out of. This is my thinking now. We haven't actually accomplished it yet, but maybe my thinking can help stir some things within others that will allow it to be made so that other people can benefit from it. So this was one that Armin put together, and if you think about it, what you're doing is you're creating your 3 layers with your plates. We have the titanium, the copper, and the aluminum. We put our top plate, so underneath here, or if you can see my mouse, underneath there is the deuterium paint. We painted the top of this reactor ball with deuterium in order to try to force the fields down through the configuration. And all of the electrical wires are, and everything are within the environment of the setup. So just like the spaceship can do all of that stuff that it can do, so should this be able to do the same things. Similar materials we're using the hydrogen GaNs, which is what I think of as kind of the creation energies. Let's see if we can take this to the next step. Go ahead and play the rest of it. Play the rest of it out, Vince.
Hello.
Oh, that was the rest of it.
Here in Arizona, David's measuring the field. You notice David has a light body now. David's lit up. Oh, David's not really lit up. That was the sun. But the fields are all the way outside the building.
That was the last video, John?
Okay, good. So those are some of the types of things that we do. There's, I think there's probably twice as many of those that are
Your integration go.
that are kicking around. What I want to do is give a flavor for the types of things that we're doing, both the successes and failures. And maybe some of even the failures might spark some, ideas within other people of how we can come up with new ideas and improve what it is that we're doing. I think you want to go to, I think there's 2 more videos, just real quick. Can you hit the next video? Or not the video, but the next slide. Vince, do you have another slide there? Maybe 2 more slides?
Sorry, John, just taking a look here.
They're not real important. It's maybe some of our internal humor that I was going to share. So conceptually, can anybody else see the possibilities if we were to create a bubble of energy within that oasis system, where potentially we could take that bubble of energy and either put it in a satellite, or put it in a spaceship and put it above a city and have it become our power source, rather than worrying about a single maggrav. I think there's a potential to power a whole city. Maybe that's food for thought for other people. I think with a lot of this technology, you got to look at what's on the plate and where it can go, because a lot of times our thoughts are limiting us. And with this plasma technology and what's coming forward, we don't need to limit ourselves, because there's going to be some things that we can do with it that are going to be very beneficial for all of mankind. So these last two slides, I just shared. This was the ball that went on Armin's ARhAyas system. He didn't call it an ARhAyas. He thinks it's going to be a spaceship. And then the next slide, David and I were playing around with which one was going to fly first, me or him. We put a little bit different materials into each of the two reactors, and we were testing them. Not as a competition, but as a friendly nudging to remind us of what it is that we're doing, and how each of us is contributing to the whole. It's not just me. It's not just Armin. It's not just David. It's all of us, and the all of us goes beyond even the Arizona factory. It goes to each and every one of the people listening, the people that participate in these videos. The whole foundation plays an active role in bringing all of these changes forward. Just like Mr. Keshe says, the race is on, but it really isn't so much a race. It's an understanding that when one can bring forward the technology, we all benefit. And that's what we really want to get to. We want to change the paradigm. We want to stop the wars. We want peace on this planet. And one spaceship can make a huge difference. It's a game changer. So let's all take up the challenge. I provided a lot of information, and I hope that people can recognize what it is that they saw and heard, and take it to the next step. I'll open up for questions, or what do you want to do? Ms. Keshe, want to come in?
There is one question in the chat here, if we want to take questions.
Carry on. Read it, please.
Rodrigo asks, how long do you leave the CH3 in the container with CO2 to make tritium?
We do it about 2 to 4 weeks. At least 2 weeks. We like 4 weeks better. So that's why we get a couple of different containers, because, for us, one container, especially when you dry it down, doesn't go very far. So we're always making. I encourage everybody, make more CH3. Make more CH3. The hydrogen, the tritium, and the deuterium is what I think of as the gold mine of the Ganses. You're going to find that it can be very beneficial in your. You saw earlier the creation of materials. Those two balls that David's holding in his hands right there are the backbone for creating the materials. It's the hydrogen and the tritium. It's the creation energies.
There's a couple of questions in the Q&A, John. Renee asks, can you confirm that the tritium will react to a magnet? If so, it would be a good indicator for people who do not know if they produce tritium or not.
Deuterium will, and we know that tritium is magnetical. I would be surprised if it didn't react to a magnet. But I haven't put a magnet in one.
Okay.
It makes sense. It's magnetical. It's highly magnetical.
Okay. Nick M asks, I use chopped Coke plastic. I'm sure he's talking about Coca-Cola or cola bottle plastic. Yes. From the top and bottom, and make a GANS of it with the hot caustic, like in the food GANS method, as suggested by Armin in a recent reactor group meeting. Then I pull out the carbon with the CO2 GANs production. Is this also a valid method?
No, I think you missed one step in there. You need to add your CH3 in when you're making it. Just like I showed in my video. I don't know that you can just, well, maybe you can. If you think about it, the plastics are CH bond. You're now making a GANs of Coke bottles, and you're pulling out the carbon element out of it. Personally, I think I would like my method better. I don't know exactly what you're getting with that, but maybe. There's other ways to do hydrogen. Those two ways that I showed are not the only two ways. I've actually shown other ways.
It's another GANs question for you. We have a lot of, ARhAyas asks, we have a lot of time, room, space problems to separate the GANSes. How can we isolate them when we have, for example, all GANSes in one room?
We do also. Our GANs are in one room that we make them, but we've learned, and we're doing a better job now of isolating them better. In the factory, we have the space. In your homes, you don't have the space. Do the best you can. Watch out for the things like, lead GANs or high, very strong titanium GANs. You don't necessarily want to mix those together with the ones you're using for your health patches, for example. It makes a difference. Do the best you can. Sometimes you don't realize that every time you're making GANs and trying and testing, those energies are telling the universe that you want to make changes in this world, and that you want to bring about a difference, and it goes into the collective energies that will help bring this forward. If one person was to bring forward the spaceship, the amount of momentum gained by that one little step would be enough to propel us very quickly to the things that we're trying to do. Thousands of people would start paying attention. Not that thousands of people aren't already paying attention, but thousands more, millions more.
Well, there's two more in the live stream. One says, John, I mentioned this earlier with Dr. Gatwa's presentation as well. Why above the city? Let's run over the existing carrier waves of the cell towers and Wi-Fi. It's another frequency and will not interfere. What do you think about that?
That's what we need, is people like him to come up with these creative ideas to make it happen. I don't have all the solutions.
Well, maybe you can help ARhAyas, who says, our group is planning on utilizing this technology in India. What can we do to implement this endeavor into an actual reality? Guidance is required. Thank you.
My whole presentation today was about creating a spaceship. And if he could create a spaceship in a community like India, it would be a very big deal in helping millions of people in that country to change their ways of life. And maybe what he needs to do is to realize what kind of potential that he can get out of creating a spaceship. Now, I shared almost every single step along the way. There's not millions of dollars worth of cost. Even the ARhAyas system, you can do with ping pong balls and fan motors with the right loading configuration. And an ARhAyas system could be a home for a family who's living in cardboard boxes. It could be a home for them to keep them safe and out of the elements and improve their life in ways that we don't fully understand yet. So take the challenge upon yourself to help your community to